How do I check if I am live? Go live. Okay, am I live? I have no idea if I am live. Oh, it says I'm live, okay. Alright, nobody's watching the stream anyway, so it's fine. I just wanted to try this out to see if I can, I don't know, do stuff, whatever. Let's see. What's the point of the stream? I guess I just wanted to do a post-mortem of my videos. Kind of like keeping a record of what of videos, I guess, because a lot of the time when I'm talking to myself, there's nobody live. I'm live, nobody's here. I'm talking to myself, I guess. There's kind of a lack of records for keeping my videos. Man, I am not good at talking live. Let me start again. It's kind of, when I make a video, there's a lot of information that I don't always get to put inside the video. I am sometimes just like missing there's some information that I just can't put enough. Oh my god, there's actually somebody live. Hi, Nanip Gao, the linguophile. Thanks for actually joining. Okay, so I'm not alone now. I have to be a bit serious, I guess. So this is a kind of a post-mortem stream. I want to go through my videos and just look at just to talk about all the things that I might have missed, and all the things that I couldn't put inside the video. Like there are a lot of trivias or just things that I didn't manage to put for time reason or script reason. So that's what this stream is gonna be, and we'll see how it goes. And yeah, I guess I'll just start. Hello, today we are going to talk about the I'm sorry, this is stupid. This is not even a real hood. This is just a t-shirt that I have in my bag. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm not much for costume, okay? Today we're going to take a look at the theme of poverty in the Harry Potter book series. Finally, I get to make a video that's within my actual area of expertise, literary analysis. Yeah, so hey Nanip Gao, there's no need to join my Patreon if you're like strapped of money. There's no big deal. So just take care of yourself first. But for those who don't know, I am a writer before I'm anything else. Literary analysis is, it's literally kind of like my specialty because of what I do. So this was quite a fun video to make because I finally get to actually do the things that I'm supposed to be doing. No, exciting. I am so sorry. In particular, I want to focus on what it tells us about the way people like its author, Jebediah Cornelius Rowling, aka J.K. Rowling, thinks and reacts to wealth. Or more. I'm not happy that the Jebediah Cornelius Rowling joke is currently the most popular comment that I have on the video. That's not the hill I want to die on. More broadly, what middle-class free market neoliberals and conservatives think about poverty. Let's get started. Credit where credit is due, I got the idea for this video while rewatching Sean's video about Harry Potter, specifically the video titled Harry Potter. Good one, Sean, very creative. In his video, Sean dedicates two whole segments to talking about poverty in the Harry Potter books, particularly focused on the part in the Philosopher's Stone, where Harry finds out he inherited a buttload of money but for some reason is still too much of a miser to buy stuff needed for himself and his friends, and in the subsequent two books where Harry calls his surrogate family family, the Weasleys, a buttload of money by crashing their car, watching his best friend get injured by a broken wand, living in their homes for free, getting a bunch of presents without giving anything in return, and basically being an overall mooch while being richer than all of them combined. Sean.
So the interesting thing about Harry is that book Harry is kind of more of an asshole than movie Harry. So Harry in the movie is depicted as kinder and more willing to like do stuff, but even then, both versions of Harry don't actually spend a lot of money on their friends. To be honest, I think I can count on both my hands, throughout all 7 books, the amount of time Harry actually bought things for the people in his life, or most of his money is spent like buying stuff for himself.
John chalked this all up to the author Rowling and her political beliefs seeping through before moving on. And while I don't disagree with that analysis, I felt that he didn't dive into the poverty theme as deeply as he could. Because there is actually a very interesting question we can ask here, which is, what do people like Rowling actually think of poverty? Now, there's a giant elephant in the room here, and that is Rowling's reported experience with poverty herself in the 1990s. Park that knowledge somewhere in the back of your mind. We'll get to it later. Remember it, because it will be on the test. What test? Testes! Okay.
That's a great joke. Oh yeah, and yeah, Sean is great. Sean is I watch his entire video on repeat quite a few times. I have him kind of in the background sometimes, just when I'm working, just to have a familiar voice that's speaking sense, if that makes sense.
Get it? It's like these nuts, like these, and you go these nuts, but it's test, and I go testes, like
Oh, this is so cringe.
testicles.
Please clap.
What
I
we will
am
focus
so
on for
sorry
now
for that
is
joke.
the simple idea that Rowling is and was for most of her life a middle class or higher white woman. If you think of a stereotypical white middle class woman from the 80s and 90s, that's basically Rowling. But unlike most people, she wrote an entire book series on her own fantasy morality of good versus evil. A book series we can dissect, and I'm very interested in how Rowling treats and portrays the idea of poverty. You can analyze this mindset all the way back from the first book. The Dursley, Harry's abusive adopted family, and specifically his uncle Vernon, tries to escape all the magical letters Harry had been getting for his enrollment in Hogwarts. Slowly, the family is driven further and further to the brink, escaping their home, then running around hotels and driving all around the country, before finally being chased to a dingy little shack in the middle of the sea. All of this up to now was covered in Sean's video, but I wanted to delve a little bit deeper, because here, for Rowling, poverty is treated as a punishment. The Dursley didn't learn to empathize during this act, nor were we the readers ever actually worried for their financial status. Being poor here is something that you can just do, that you can visit. And once you learn what you needed to learn, in this case, the people being taught a lesson were us.
First off, thanks for helping share the video. No, like, no stress if you can't. It's not a big deal. Just doing this kind of for fun. Anyway, Rowling's poverty is kind of an interesting thing to look at in a punishment kind of way, because there are spattering of quotes from her where she just sort of says that poverty is punishment. Just sort of come out and say it, and it's kind of weird because her experience with poverty, which it's kind of iffy if it really borderlines it, but I don't want to like undermine her suffering or anything, is that if she's experienced it, I'm not sure why she would think it's a punishment, but that's a personal thing, you know. I remember as a kid thinking it would make sense if like the Potters Harry could only take out so much at a time. Yeah, that this is one of the arguments like in the fandom that why wasn't there like a I don't know what's the word for it, like a minimum that Harry can take out from his vast amount of inherited fortune, and Harry really inherited a shit ton of money. Like his grandfather was the equivalent of the guy who invented Coca-Cola or something, like a hair growth formula that became very popular in the wizarding world. And then his dad, James, inherited all that money, and then Terry inherited that money. He's a trust fund kid. He inherited a ridiculous amount of money, and it's kind of in the fandom where people are like, why don't Harry just have a limit and then everything can be explained? But the limit was never put into the books or the movies. It's like Rowling wanted the image of a poor kid that has this make a wish fulfillment fantasy, but at the same time don't want to actually tackle the actual problems of poverty.
The readers, in why we shouldn't be Dursley evil, you can stop being poor. You'll see this again in future books, where poverty is something you can just go to. Harry has to go back to the Dursleys every year, but he gets to return to the wealthy life of the wizarding world afterwards. He stays with the Weasleys a few times and experiences their poverty, but those explorations are cut short when he just returns to Hogwarts later. Even for us, the readers, the experience of poverty in Harry Potter is never truly explored. We don't spend enough time with any of the poorer characters in their environment to truly grasp the experience. It's very much similar to the phenomenon of poverty tourism we explored in a previous video, where people from wealthier backgrounds goes to poorer places to, it sounds really disgusting to say, experience a simple life or appreciate the things they have.
Okay, I stopped on the guggle. Laughing too much. Alright. Poverty tourism is such an interesting concept because it feels like something that has been part of the fabric of culture since forever. We kind of maintain that, like, oh, look at aren't they worse off? Aren't they poorer in Africa or whatever other stereotype country you want to put off? It's a really weird concept because you are basically using someone else's suffering to justify that your privilege or your level of suffering isn't should be loved or isn't that bad depending on where you are in life. And it's kind of, I don't know, like morally it's not a great thing to feel like you're going through.
It's the same as people who wants to retire on a farm. To them, farm work is a retirable job, something to make a little scratch on the side while living out your golden years instead of, an actual job that a lot of poor people do and are underpaid in. And that's a good segue into looking at who Rowling thinks are poor. There are two types of poverty portrayed in the Harry Potter books. The first are good people who are just held back by bad people, like Harry Potter, Molly and Arthur Weasley, and Luna Lovegood. This is a juxtaposition to Rowling's own experience of poverty brought on by a divorce.
And interesting about the people that are displayed as poor in Harry Potter is that they don't actually even seem that poor when you actually look into it. Like the Weasleys is fitting like what George, Fred, Ron, Ginny, Percy, 5 kids. I think there's one more. I feel like I'm missing one more brother, the one who trains dragons. Yeah, they raise like 6 kids and have a 3-story house in a field with their own land. That's not exactly my view of poverty, and they don't seem like they are really very strapped all the time. Yep, 7 kids. Charlie and Bill. Yes. Holy shit, I don't have a great live memory. My memory is kind of crap in life situations, but yes, 7 kids, large field of land, 3-4-story house. Oh yeah, Bill married the Fleur. Was it Bill? Charlie married Fleur? I have no idea. But yeah, huge plot of land. Arthur works one job and can afford all of that. It just doesn't seem like the idea of poverty that we have today. It feels kind of like a lower middle class, and it kind of says what Rowling's view of poverty is. Like, that to her, that is a minimum, you know.
The second are people just too weak or indecisive to make it. Peter Pettigrew and Neville Longbottom comes to mind. Neville only becomes successful or useful in the books whenever he decides to stand his ground. This is a reflection of Rowling's own idea of her experience, I'd say, where she got out of her own poverty by her own efforts, big air quotes, which is something she seems to at least subconsciously think is true. That also brings us to those that are wealthy, which can also generally be divided into two types. Those that pull themselves up by their bootstraps with hard work or genius, such as Hermione becoming the Minister for Magic and Fred and George Weasley with their joke shop, or just really evil, greedy wizards like the Malfoy and the Strangers.
I feel like Rowling did the bare minimum in portraying like bootstraps pulling, like with Hermione and Fred and George. It's kind of a very bare minimum portrayal of people who just did the work and got to where they are. Even Fred and George is kind of like, yeah, they're smart, but they need like an angel investor like Harry to even get where they are. So I think Hermione would be the closest. But again, bare minimum. And it's kind of more like a cliche, more like a trope where the smart, hardworking person gets the good job. Also, like, just a very fun trivia is like, when I was young, before the movies, I didn't know how to pronounce Hermione's name, so I call her Hermione. So, sorry, it's just really. Yeah, so before there was a movie, nobody knew how to phonetically pronounce Hermione's name, so it's like Hermione. So Hermione, that's her name to me when I was growing up for like 3 years.
Poverty is never a systemic issue in Harry Potter. It is something done to you or something that you deserved. There's no exploration of systemic wealth issue in the Harry Potter world. Rowling's view of poverty is just that shallow. Poverty and excess wealth aren't systemic issues depicted in books. In fact, there are no systemic issues to talk about in any of her stories. If you work hard or take advantage of others, you get rich. But if you don't, you're poor. It's a neoliberal utopian fantasy where the free market system works and the distribution and experience of wealth inequality all boils down to an individual's ability, where you fit in where you fit in, or something else is doing evil stuff to them. Not the system, and a hand of God type of comeuppance is what allows good people to get rich.
Yeah, when I was growing up, I also grew up in a relatively like wealthy family, and okay lah, more than relatively wealthy, to be honest, quite disgustingly wealthy. And I think it's because of the way I was raised that I was able to break out of that mindset of like, oh, poor is just people having less than me. That there is actually a level of suffering that I have to, I don't know, just understand. So yeah, I totally understand your like view, because I also grew up in like the 1990s when money was just this thing that seems to float endlessly. It was this era of like the dot-com boom, and production was high, China was entering the market, everything just felt cheap and affordable, and everything just felt manageable, you know. So I totally understand why people would think this way. But as the years went on, it's very hard to not see it as a blip. It's very hard to not see that period of time frame as just a kind of like an economic miracle. Not really a miracle. There's a lot of, you know, policies making decisions that led up to it, but it's when you live through the actual all the crash and everything, it's kind of hard not to, you know, recalibrate your compass on economics.
There's always someone pulling the strings. If not some evil conspiracy, then it's an individual's lack of ability or just like plot armor. It's never a systemic issue. The slave elf race aren't poor because there's a system of...
So, a little quick thing about the plot armor in Harry Potter is like, it feels like Rowling uses Harry's money as a plot armor whenever she needs to, and whenever she doesn't, she just don't. Like, Harry will complain about not being able to buy a broom, but he like randomly drop hundreds of galleons on random shit, you know, like I think I'll get to this later.
Slavery, they are poor because they want to be. They love being slaves. Jacob isn't poor because there's a systemic abuse of workers in that era. He just needed a chance and a magic friend who can give him a golden egg. Rowling portrays poverty as a kind of punishment, of shame, because that's what she felt when she used to be poor. Remember, she used to be poor? The elephant in the room I mentioned earlier? You had better remember. I told you there'd be a test. Testes!
I don't think poverty is like a mark of shame. I think it should be like a mark of anger. You know, nobody choose to be poor. Something happened to you. Something was done to you, or like, you know, you even addiction is like a medical condition. Everything, something was done to you to make you become poor, and framing it as a mark of shame like Rowling does is, it just demeans humans suffering. Nobody chooses to suffer. That's basically what I'm saying.
Rowling's poverty is actually an interesting look, and not just her mindset, but also the mindset of others like her. For that, we need to properly identify what people like her means. Political ideologies are often simplified into left and right, but in actuality, an individual's political ideology can be wildly mixed. You can shuffle from dozens of categories to get incredibly varied combinations, each with different definition.
Okay, so Nandigao, yeah, you're right. I don't think I mentioned the fountain in the video now that I think about it. He dumped 100+ galleons. It wasn't specifically stated how much. They just said he bet 100 galleons that if he was acquitted by the Ministry of Magic that he would throw 100 galleons into the fountain. And he just dumped his entire wallet, so it's 100 galleons plus extra. And 100 galleons, I think, is 400 pounds. Is it in the 500 pounds plus. So, and that's just like conversion, you know. That's buying power wise. That's a couple of $1,000 in today's money. So can you imagine like a 16-year-old with a few $1,000s in his wallet, just making some random bet and just dumping that much money into a random fountain? And okay, Rowling tried to make this seems like a kind gesture by having a sign that says money dumped into the fountain is donated to St. Bunkles, but it's such a random thing for a kid like that to do. He has dumping into fountain money. That's not poor at all.
For example, while it might be easier to put me under a collective label of leftist and ignoring the existence of the Overton window, I am actually a moral progressive socialist.
Yeah, so this is something that I will probably cover in a future video, this political ideology mixing. I studied this because I'm trying to design a game around educational game for politics. Yes, that's how I will describe it, and I learned a lot about it through this.
Socialism is what type of political system I prefer to have. Focus on social ownership and means of production. Progressivism is how I want that system to be implemented through continued change and improvements in laws. Moralism is then the why of my ideology, meaning that I make decisions of what my policies are based on a moralist creed. This kind of political ideological mixing is the accurate way political ideologies should be qualified. classified. And
Okay,
while
I like that.
interesting, delving further into this topic shall be a subject for another video. But as to what I think Joker Killmonger Rowling's type is, my best guess is that she's an
Yeah, Kennedy. Elon Musk probably could. I've read somewhere that billionaires make like a couple of $100 a minute or something. That's some ridiculous number. And the joke about Joker Killmonger. That's the real joke, not the one that got stuck in people's head from the start of the video. It's supposed to be a slow repetition of J.K. Rowling's name, increasingly getting more convoluted, but people just got stuck on the Cornelius thing. I don't know why. Cornelius isn't a funny word. At least I don't think it is.
individual populist neoliberal, meaning that she prefers neoliberal policies funneled through a populist political system based on her personal individual experience. And that may sound complicated, because it is, but the only part we need to really focus on for this analysis is the individualism aspect. Rowling's political beliefs seems to be based entirely around herself, individualism. For example, I don't need to be poor to support wealth redistribution. I don't need to have my gender discriminated to support feminism. I don't need to be trans to be able to support trans rights. But Rowling does, because she's an individualist. Her philanthropy is entirely determined by her choice.
So I don't want to undermine Rowling's experience, her suffering, because she is a sexual assault survivor. She is an abuse survivor. So all those things are really real. It just seems like at the end of it, she didn't take away that with any external empathy for other stuff. So she's still empathetic towards abuse and all that, but it seems to be very restricted to what she has experienced, which is why I, in my opinion, deem that she is an individualist.
When talking about how she lost her billionaire status through philanthropy, she said, and I quote, "You have a moral responsibility when you've been given far more than you need, to do wise things with it and give intelligently." Intelligently and wise being the key words. She's basically saying her choices are the wise and intelligent option. She's choosing where her money goes instead of just giving it to the people who says they need it. This is basically an individualist scale of effective altruism, a highly controversial form of philanthropy that is really more about boosting.
Yeah, it's just a personal opinion.
Rowling
but,
supports socialist welfare schemes because she benefited from welfare. She supports feminist policies because she's a woman who experienced that discrimination. And she supports things like multiple sclerosis research because her mother had it. But she's unable to wrap her mind around things like trans rights because she's not trans. Among other things like, slavery and race, which...
So, my next video is actually gonna be about slavery. I will be able to talk about this in the future. Yeah, those things are serious. Yeah, bad things. Sorry, I'm new to streaming, reading chat and all that stuff. Really hard to juggle. Yeah, so slavery is like it's a really weird topic in Rowling's work, but as a fantasy theme, it is becoming very common, and that's kind of a worrying theme. I'll cover this in my next video. It's dropping, I think, Monday, so you guys can look forward to that.
I don't want to talk about in this video, but it's definitely there.
Oh,
You
I
can
said
read
it.
all these thought process in her writings. For example, the Weasleys are displayed as good people in a poor situation because that's her life growing up. But the elves' poverty aren't evil because she's not a slave or a slave owner. At least, I fucking hope not. Even Rowling's philanthropy carries this thought process. Though I need to point out that her philanthropy is a good thing regardless, mind you. I do not want to make it seem like she has not done genuinely good things with her philanthropy, which she has. She helped evacuate and save the lives of hundreds of female lawyers, successful women like her, from the Taliban.
Yeah, so all this is true. Rowling is like one of the larger philanthropist billionaire, so much so that she lost her billionaire status. That's still a lot of money that she has, but you know, credit where credit is due. She is a philanthropist. It's just very targeted, and there's always this feeling like that she has turned some of that money holes towards underrepresented group like trans people as well.
But if you're trans, which she's not, the Taliban are suddenly her allies.
Yeah, this is something that she actually liked, pro-Taliban post, you know.
She throws support behind lifting single parents out of poverty because she was one. But she does not have the same dog in the fight against systemic poverty. In fact, donating a lot of money to neoliberal candidates in her country to keep the status quo. Safety nets are great. Systemic changes are bad. Independence is good, unless your former neighbor and friend is running an anti-independence campaign and then it contains traces of bigotry. Don't look at all the other very real imperialist racism on your side. Now, it's very easy for me to pile on to the problem of Rowling's recent transformation into a turf, but I can't help but be disappointed.
So, Rowling's empire of the wizarding world is like it's like Nanip Gauss is like she has kind of questionably made her merchandise money through like a lot of sketchy means. I didn't really look into that because it wasn't directly part of the video, but I know about it, and I feel like there's a point of wealth where if you get to a point of wealth, you just get away with this kind. You have to do this kind of stuff to get to that point of wealth. Like if you paid people a decent living wage or anything of the sort, you are probably never gonna be underpaying people or using sweatshops and the like. That's just, I can't see a person who not do that end up with like a grotesque level of disposable income. That's just not something that I think it's possible in a capitalist society.
She's obviously a person trying to do good, but because of her individualist ideology,
I gave a lot of
she has
leeway in my
solidified
video, by
her
the way.
idea of suffering. Rowling has been touted as a bootstraps billionaire, someone who found success by pulling herself up.
A lot of news love putting Rowling as a bootstraps billionaire. I don't really see it personally. Maybe I'm just like my sense of bootstrapping is a bit too high or something.
It's a claim that she has never denied and softly implied she agreed with, but adjusted for inflation and buying power, depending on what numbers you use. While she was living on welfare, she got anywhere between 400 to 800 pounds a week of spending power in today's money from UK's unemployment benefits.
So this number was kind of actually hard to calculate. This is a really rough estimate, and I am being very conservative for Rowling here because the track spending power, you need to calculate basically everything, your housing, your groceries, your everything, and there's just not, it's just a bit hard to find that number. So I took a couple of data sets that track the cost of certain points of living and just gave a average, median, mean, and had my, you know, anywhere between X and X amount. And the data set I took was for housing, for rent, for groceries, for healthcare, I think, and transport. And I just gave that a quick long average, and with a lot of caution thrown for in Rowling's favor. Aside from the mistake that I made on the prompter, but yeah, the number
That's
is
somewhere between 4 to 8 times more than a person
Oops.
would in the same position as she was today. She's benefited from the dying gasps of left-leaning socialist policies that lifted millions out of poverty, who can't seem to see problems outside her scope of experience. She kissed the edge of abject poverty, and her individualist morality put that as the line where the edge was. Income for the bottom 10% in the UK, the percentile in which Rowling was a part of, had risen by 30.
so Kennedy, that's actually a really good point. That even if people like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, like even if they give to charity or do philanthropic stuff, they actually don't undo the harm they do. It's like I did a calculation just for fun of how much money Jeff Bezos had when he was first named the richest person alive, and like if we took all his money, I think the this is purely my opinion. I'm not an economist, but the math just kind of, I think the math that I came up with was like he could fund free healthcare for the entire world, some ridiculous concept like that, you know. And I was like shit talking about it with my friend, and just trying to put a scale to the amount of money people like them have. It is insane amount of money. I don't talk about like the amount of money that we may not be able to make in our lifetime. We won't be able to spend that amount of money in our lifetime. We can buy an entire country with the amount some of these billionaires have, and we'd still be billionaires. I think the idea was that Jeff Bezos could fund UBI and free healthcare in my country of 5 million people forever, and he would still be a billionaire after spending all of that money. That's how much money he had. That was the conclusion I had. My opinion, not an economist. The numbers might have changed. Just saying.
Percent since 1995, but rental costs had risen by nearly 250%.
Yeah, housing costs.
And house put.
Yeah, all these numbers for house and rental costs are just, it's absolutely terrifying. It's like 5 times. Housing costs in Singapore is rising a lot as well. The house my family lived in, we bought it 12 years ago, 15 years ago for 500,000, 250 or I can't remember. I was a kid. I don't remember this kind of stuff. But it's like $1 million now. So the rise is insane. I don't think I can afford a house, even with government subsidy. I will be eligible for government subsidy for housing in 3 years, but I don't think I can afford it. I don't think I will ever be able to move out of this house that my parents bought. That's just how mad housing prices across the world is getting.
This cost rose by a whopping 500%. The money her friends lent her that allowed her to afford rent and even a new apartment would not cover a single month of living expenses today. I'm genuinely not trying to belittle her suffering here, but I think the reason why her views on poverty in the books are so off, and the reason for her recent controversial views, is because she can't move her empathy past that ledge. Her most recent writings are a perfect example of this. They are steeped in the same lack of respect and an incredulous refusal to learn of other cultures that so plagued the turn of the century. In her writing of the Japanese wizarding school, Mahutokoro, which is actually pronounced Maho-dokoro, Rowling continued the stereotype of Japanese being obsessed with honor.
Yeah, this is a weird thing Rowling does with like other people's culture, where she just takes it and does no amount of research whatsoever and just turn it into her own power play culture, power play fantasy. It's really weird to me as a writer. I write novels as well. I have published books, and I know a lot of novelist friends. They have published books, and we have never done this. Like, we have the internet, so maybe Rowling was just like raised in a time where she doesn't have access to it. But Mahutokoro, oh man, I'm even pronouncing it wrong. Mahutokoro is like, it's recent. It was past internet point. She had the information. She could look it up, and it's kind of such an incredible insult because she's putting her own cultural ideas as the default cultural ideas. Like the thing she did with the indigenous American, that was also insanely insensitive. There was a comment commenter in the video who talked about how like the Spanish school Castle books on one of them. Damn, there's too much information for my brain. I have a very small brain. But yeah, one of the school in Latin America speaks Spanish. I think it's Spanish. I could probably check the comments. It's somewhere down there. Oh yeah, the Latin America countries speak Spanish, but the only school of magic in Latin America is in the middle of the jungle in Brazil, the only country that doesn't speak Spanish. And that's just this is one of those things that it's weird to me. If you're writing about someone else's culture, you do your best, or at least do your least to learn about it. That's not jeopardize Cornelius Rowling. I really hope that's not what their video is being remembered for. Oh, Nanimika, you live in Yokohama. That's nice. Yeah, I freaking love Japanese culture. I'm a otaku, so yeah, mangas and shit. I love that crap. I actually do proofreading for manga translation. Legal, illegal, touch wood, who knows?
With an added tinge of imperialism, of course. Also, the complete ignorant act of making the color white somehow means disgrace to the Japanese, despite that color being considered to be the color of their gods. What the fuck, Joanne? I didn't even know such a high level of ignoracism was possible. I feel like my anger has gotten me off track again. But
I legitimately get angry a lot when I'm recording these videos. I don't always intend to. It's just some stuff just blows my mind.
that's how Rowling thinks. Her mind is stuck in the past, based on her own limited experience with subjects that she has not taken any effort to learn more of. I started writing this script thinking
I'm kind of empathetic to Rowling. Oh, hi, Yola. There's a... Yeah, in Brazil we speak Portuguese. Yeah, I don't know what language people speak in Brazil, so I wouldn't write about Brazil. I would have to research it before I write about it. But Rowling doesn't, so it's insane. Yeah, she has so much money she could talk to anybody she wants to learn any of this. You're right, Nanipkau. Where was I? What's my thought? Oh yeah, I'm very... See, this is what happens when I try to speak really fast. I usually talk very controlled, slowly, like this, with pauses. But whenever I'm in a kind of like a people relationship, I try to speed up so that people don't get annoyed with my pauses. If you watch my Kali Flashman video, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I'm very empathetic to Rowling's situation to a point, because I remember when I was young, I also was very ignorant of other people's culture. I grew up watching like American movies, like a lot of people outside of America. It's the only kind of media that we get for a long time that was any good. So there were a lot of like, I used to use the N-word kind of liberally. I'm not very proud of it now that I know, but it's kind of like, once I knew what it stood for and why I shouldn't use it, I stopped, because I grew up. And I even wrote like a blog article about like why I thought the N-word was linguistically good. But I couldn't stand by it as time went on, and I took it down because I changed my opinion. I learned more about the culture, and I just went like, I shouldn't do it. So I don't think it's a good excuse for someone like Rowling, who has more access to other cultures than I do, who has the resource to learn more things than I have, and still not change. Because I think my bar is really low. It feels like she can do better. I think that's all I'm saying. I'm trying to do better. I won't lie. I did a lot of messed up things as a kid. When I'm younger, I wrote a lot of weird stuff. But I grew up. I got better. And yeah, I hope people I hope that's what people will take away. Yeah, that you should just try to do better.
It's just going to be making an analysis of juicy, kinky Rowling and
This was the part where people were supposed to laugh, not Jebediah's Cornelius. Goddammit! I am so disappointed.
politics. But by the time I started looking at her history with poverty, I realized this video was actually more about us. People like me who are fans of Harry Potter and this uncomfortable feeling we have of watching this beloved and popular story from our childhood fall away from our grasp. And the story hasn't changed. It's the same story we read as children, but for some reason we're just not as comfortable with it anymore. And I'm reminded of News Daddy Cody talking
I love Someone News. I love it so much. They are so funny.
about how the insult comedy of the 90s quickly fell out of fashion.
The Someone News analysis of insult comedy was genuinely one of the most eye-opening analysis of comedy that I've ever watched. It was because I used to love like Ricky Gervais and stuff like that. But learning about how culture changes and comedy has to change with it really changed the way I view art in general.
These satires of prejudices we were performing were overshadowed by the fact that the prejudices that were being parodied were still a very real and existing thing. We haven't solved those issues. We have not earned the right to turn them into jokes yet. And that's what happened with Harry Potter. This is my copy of the Philosopher's Stone. My sister got it for me in 2002 and it was my first.
So my sister writes in Old Chinese, which I'm not very good at reading. It says, "Happy birthday. I think I wish your bodies to be healthy." No idea what that last sentence is.
Novel. And back then, reading it, the poverty was believable to me. It felt like that was the edge of poverty. But I was 10.
Yeah, it's quite a weird thing. 'Cause I was 10 and I've changed so much. And you'd think that given the same amount of time, even if you're older, you would be able to, I don't know, change slightly. Yeah, News Daddy is great. Like if you're going to make other cultures a large part of your story, you really should read. Yes, correct. So I started writing when I was like 13, so around a short time after I started reading long novels, Kennedy, and it's like one of the first thing I learned was like I need to research other people when I'm writing about it, and it's really weird to not be open to criticism like that. It's kind of like the first thing you need to know as a writer, just to know how to take criticism. Oh, damn, out-tapped.
I didn't know about the world yet, and because of that, it felt like a solvable problem. It was bad, but not that bad. However, that was before the Great Recession, the housing crash, before UK austerity. It was a time before most people realized just how much damage to the social safety net wealthy people have been chipping away.
By the way, UK, congratulations on your recent election. Like, it's a small steps towards not burning down, but not burning down. Nanit Gao, I'm an aspiring novelist and I'm aware of how even my fictional groups might carry biases and be read by. Yeah, I've written like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 complete novels, all self-published. And even after all this experience, I still consider myself not well versed, and I still try to learn more about any culture that I may be adapting. So yeah, it's not supposed to be like an easy thing like how Rowling does it.
And by the time all that came to light, we realized that the poverty edge that Rowling experienced, that she translated into her books, wasn't the real edge. That there were people who were suffering so much worse under the neoliberal system that Rowling touted. That system had actually failed and was on life support with remnants of socialist policies from the 1950s. And as we grew older and the world got clearer, we could no longer ignore
This is very true for a lot of parts of the world. So while researching for this story, I was also looking at all the financial status for a lot of countries, and this is a recurring thing. Like, a lot of countries have remnants of socialist policy that was put in place after the war to allow that country to recover, and that's how a lot of wealth was built up for that generation. Even Singapore, we had a massive housing thing where people were just given houses, paid to have houses, and that's how a lot of our older generation amassed their wealth. And that bit of support has disappeared for a lot of the people in the newer generations. Like, forget about housing being more expensive now. Like, for Singapore at least, it's not that housing is like 500 or 25,000 times more expensive than it was for like my grandparents. For some people of my grandparents' generation, they were paid to have houses. We are negative. We are infinitely more expensive houses than that generation. Elika Omonia, don't worry, Aiden. UK is still burning down. We're all burning. Just let's slow it down a little bit so we can suffer a little longer. Nanip Gao, it's cool. I haven't completed one. Oh, don't worry about completing your novels. It's just right for you. I think we have too much, like, as writers, we try to keep thinking like, oh, we're gonna publish something, but no, I think just writing for yourself, self-publishing, that's all fine. People like it, and if you like it, that makes you good.
All those background noises of Harry Potter and more. The diluted look at poverty, the childish morality and politics, Slytherin and slaves, cultural appropriation and goblin racisms. We could no longer ignore those as a children's book's writing, because we realize we haven't solved those issues yet. We had not earned the right to turn them into a utopian magical fantasy yet. And it would not be so bad.
I kind of stole this entire conclusion from some more news. They made a similar conclusion about trans joke, and I thought it was very fitting. But I also thought that it could apply to a wider range of issues.
If Rowling's writing had reflected this new understanding in later works, we could chalk it up to an author learning and improving. But that didn't happen. The theme of poverty explored in the Fantastic Beasts movie with the character of Jacob Kowalski was written in 2016 by Rowling, but still followed the exact same poverty story beats Harry went through a quarter a century ago in 1991. A poverty-stricken fish-out-of-water character has a hand-of-God experience with the magical world, and gained wealth through means of moral individualistic judgment.
I think a lot of defense for Rowling comes from not actually being able to see a lot of work side by side, because this was something that I only came to while working on this video, when I had the opportunity to do Philosopher's Stone and then Fantastic Beasts within a short period of time frame, and that was the only time that I was able to notice this juxtaposition, and it wasn't something that I would have noticed like having watched Harry Potter Philosopher's Stone like nearly 20 years ago, no idea how long that was ago, compared to Fantastic Beasts like half a decade ago. Yeah, it jumped out when I could see it. But I think if people are running on nostalgia, they can't really see this difference or similarity.
Even 25 years after Philosopher's Stone, Rowling's idea of poverty hasn't changed. The 10-year-old kids who devoured this book in a single afternoon had grown up and learned about the world, but the author didn't grow with us, because what we experienced, she got to skip. It wasn't individualized for her. She may live in a £2.2 million home now, with the opportunity to travel anywhere in the world, but her ideology is still stuck in a tiny apartment in Edinburgh, having never left the neoliberal Britain from the past, all the way back in 1995.
Alright, that's it for the video. So a little bit more trivia, other things that I found out about Rowling before I get to the comments. to the chat at least. I see some new comments. I'll answer them in a bit. So, Rowling's house. This is a interesting thing about Rowling House that didn't make it in the video because I didn't feel like it was relevant. She one of her friends, I think, bought was the one who gave her money for her apartment when she was poor, and in return, Rowling bought a house for that friend, a multi-million-dollar house, and it doesn't really matter much to the entire Rowling story that is being told in this video. It's just, I just find it very reflective of her personality. Like, oh, you helped me, therefore I helped you. Otherwise, I wouldn't. That's pretty much all it is. What other fun facts I have about this? I probably have more. It's probably my notes. I just I keep a work tab of all the things that I use for research open, and then I just close it once the video is finished. I need to flush my brain. I can tell you a lot about slavery, which is my next video, but Harry Potter stuff has been flushed. I only have remnants left. Alright, let's see. Comments. The world is on fire, climate change. Yep. I love to check out your book sometimes, or if you have a Discord or something like that, and talk. I've been thinking of making a Discord for my Patreon. It's just there's so little people on it. It feels very weird to make a whole Discord for I think 2 active users. I have a goal. There's if I get 10, maybe 20 Patreons, I will open a Discord just so everyone have a place to hang out. But until then, I'm a very anxious person in this sense. I don't like to do things that make it feel like I seem bigger than I am, if that makes sense. In Chinese, we call it 爱脸, safe face. It's just a thing that I was raised up with. But yeah, if the channel ever gets bigger, I'll definitely create a Discord so everyone can just chat and talk about stuff. Unfortunately, it's happening everywhere. Housing here in South America is so expensive right now. Oh yeah, by the way, if anyone have any questions, now would be a good time to ask. Housing is really rising up everywhere because people are just, I think government has just given up on making housing affordable. This is a thing that I've researched a lot. It's very hard to research on housing prices outside of your own country, I've realized, because you don't know where to look for the information that you don't know where it exists. So most of my housing research is focused on Singapore, where I live, and at the very least for Singapore, housing is being treated more as a commodity than a need. And I know that's at least true for UK and US as well, because I do get a lot of news from there. So I do understand that that's pretty much, a thing. And yeah, Singapore has a really weird housing system, public housing system. We technically have public housing, but it's being priced by the private market. So kind of like a snake eating its own tail kind of thing. It will definitely keep going up. Okay, still living. I'm 29. I'm still living at home. Kennedy. Yeah. I'm 32 and I'm still living at home. That's just seems to be the new normal for our generation, or more like, actually, I feel it's the previous generation's ability to constantly afford new housing of their own might have been a blip in history. It's a couple of 100 years of people being able to afford houses. Is that? There's a dog barking outside. I hope it doesn't mess with the sound. But yeah, I might look into this more in the future as well. It's just a guess. I might be wrong. But yeah, it might be that the ability to move out of your parents' house, to not have this generational wealth of housing, might be a blip in history. But don't feel shame for living at your parents' home or just at your child. That's kind of just the cards were given. We kind of just have to deal with it. I think it was one of her in-laws, but this is about Rowling's house. Yeah. It's okay, no pressure. Thanks. What gave you the idea for the profile picture on your channel? It's great. Oh, so I actually had to. The problem is I am the designated photographer in my social group. So I have great photos of everyone else, but I don't have good photos of me. So I actually had to pay another photographer friend of mine to have a photo session. And while we were taking it, I was thinking, what would be a photo that is like very very reflective of what I am as a artist. And my friend just says like, oh yeah, you're always very angry, you should just take a photo that you're angry. And so I have like 12 photos of me in varying phases of rage and frustration. I'm working on a book that's sort of like a response to Harry Potter. Born of Spite, Grown of Love is how I describe it. So that's how I found this video on your channel. That is really very very true of this channel. Yeah. Born of Spite. Wow. Yeah, I hope your book goes well. It sounds really interesting, and if it's anything like this ridiculous thing that I'm doing on my channel, that's gonna be fun. And by fun I mean painful, but still fun. It's the same thing here. It sucks. Housing should be a human right. Yeah, housing should be a human right. It's really weird that Rowling herself doesn't seem to have that much of a fight in housing poverty. I feel like she should, given how much she has suffered under it. It's weird, everything about Rowling. I wonder how much of her attitude is also because of her intense amount of wealth. I feel that people, once they've reached a certain level of wealth, if they don't keep a mindful check of their personality, they go down this really individualist rabbit hole. I'll talk about like individualism and all those political ideology in a future video, I hope. I always feel like I'm running out of video ideas and have too much video ideas to do at the same time. So I hope I will be able to get to it. Okay, so it's been an hour. That was fast. I have no idea how to end a stream. Anyone has any other questions? Now the time. Otherwise, I will just talk about stuff until I feel like it's a good point to end. What are the things about Rowling that I've read up on? I read up on a lot of her Wizarding World writing for the video, and there is a point, like I think of 2016, 2012, 2016, it got really weird. It got really racist and really weird, defending slavery and all that stuff. No problem if you can't think of any good questions. I will just ramble on until I get tired as well. That's kind of my default stance on life. Just keep going until you're too tired to move on. Yeah, so she started, and after that period of time where she started writing really controversial stuff like defense of slavery, shaming. I think there was a fat shaming thing for Rita Skeeter or something. I don't know. And after that, she got cut off from writing too much Wizarding World stuff, and a lot of her writing got saved by like fan groups archiving her interviews and everything on the internet. So those were really great research, point of research. If you ever grow from being just a fan of Harry Potter like me to wanting to research the writer, it's a very interesting rabbit hole to jump into, especially her wealth, and her deal with poverty. Like, I didn't get to mention like her husband, her first husband was abusive, because I didn't really think it was very pertinent to the poverty theme. The thing where wizards just poop wherever they are and magic it away was pretty weird. Yeah, I feel like that wasn't really well thought out. There's a period of time where Rowling seems to be retconning her entire world because she wants to pretend that she has planned the entire wizarding world out in that train ride when she wrote Philosopher's Stone. And that poop thing was just weird. Like, why would they just poop wherever they are and magic? Don't, even if they can magic their poop away, wouldn't they, I don't know, want a toilet or somewhere private to poop? I don't know. It yeah, it reminds me of like horses pooping in the streets and people just cleaning up after the poops of horses. Like, that's the image I have, like people just pooping and then someone from behind just magicking out the poop. Yeah. World building as a craft is a really interesting topic. I can talk for hours. I will try not to. I write hard fantasy, so I freaking love world building, but it's so much effort, you know. It also makes the bathroom completely run. Why would you even do that? Yeah, even if it doesn't make bathroom redundant, just like, shouldn't you just have private space? But yeah, it's like, why would you have bathroom now? Why, if you could magic away poop, why do you need bathroom now? Why would you need bathroom in like Hogwarts now, you know? Yes, Moaning Myrtle, the bathroom, that's actually a great point. Why would you need bathrooms now when you could magic the poop away? If I could magic poop away, I would have a place to poop, and I will magic the poop away, and that's it. I won't have water, I won't need any of those shit. Why has this stream started talking about poop? Okay, I am obviously delirious. I have 5 more viewers, concurrent viewers, than I thought I would for this. For this really first stream that I just thought would be fun to have. I might make this a regular thing, where I do a postmodern stream for each of my videos. I am not really looking forward to the next, if that's a thing, because my next video might hit the hour mark and I'm not sure if I can do a postmodern stream for that. It was gonna be the straw that broke the house. I was very, they didn't get toilets because, you know, they had yeah, regular thing, hopefully regular thing. 5 viewers, that's more than I expected. I expected nobody and I would be talking to myself the whole time, so this is fun. Yeah, alright, I should put an end to this before I talk more about bowel movements. So thanks everyone for joining, even if it's just for a little while. This has been fun. It ended weird. Hopefully I get more. Oh no, my next video won't be the hour long one. It will be the slavery video, so it will be a short one. My next video will be dropping next Monday, and then after that there will be a super long video coming, and I've been working on that video for months, for nearly a year actually, so look forward to that. Yeah, other than that, you are all very beautiful, handsome and smart. Apparently that's a catchphrase that I do now. And I will see you next time. Bye.